Hello friends, my name's Mina. Welcome to my channel Mina Reads, and today we're going to be talking about the 11 books that I read in January. So before we dive into this wrap-up, I do want to say a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Book of the Month. Book of the Month is an online subscription service for readers. How it works is that each month their team vets hundreds of books and provides you with a carefully curated selection of new and early release titles so you can spend more time reading and less time researching. I absolutely love Book of the Month, and it's also a risk-free service so you can skip any month at any time and you will not be charged. And they have the best prices for new release hardcover fiction, so you really can't go wrong with their prices. You can get your first box for $9.99 if you use my code MINAREADS. And yeah, they're just a really awesome service for readers out there, so check them out at the link in my description at bookofthemonth.com, and you won't regret it. So I got Mame by Jessica George. This is about a young Ghanaian woman who is having to take care of her family. This is kind of a coming of age story, her learning how to prioritize herself after having prioritized her family for the majority of her life and getting to know herself and what makes her happy. And I got Georgie All Along by Kate Claiborne. This is a romance, and I have been hearing really good things from the early reviews for this, so I'm very excited to check this one out. But yeah, they're a really awesome service. Be sure to check them out at bookofthemonth.com. Use my code MINAREADS to get your first box for $9.99. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring this video. Let's get into the wrap up, shall we? Okay, so up first we have A Taste of Golden Iron, which was my first read of 2023 and also my first 5-star of 2023. So incredible start to the reading year. This is an adult fantasy romance book, and this is a standalone novel. It's about a prince named Kato, and his sister Delilah is the sultan of their nation. And essentially Kato, he is a very stressed, very anxious prince trying to make himself useful in the kingdom. And so essentially there's some tension between Kato and Delilah's baby daddy, and so there's some tension brewing between them, and Kato has also been tasked with figuring out what's going on with the country's economy because there has been a sudden influx of counterfeit money coming into their nation, and they're trying to figure out where it's coming from and who is plotting against them. And so we have Kato in the beginning of this kind of clashing in a very big way with Delilah's baby daddy, and it has caused his reputation to be damaged a bit. And so Delilah decides that he needs a new bodyguard to keep him on track and to help him as he's doing this very important investigation for them. So he gets this new bodyguard named Evamir, and this is a romance between him and Evamir, who really do not like each other in the beginning. There is a lot of tension and antagonism there that turns into love and devotion and loyalty. So this is a really awesome book in my opinion. Like, I love the relationship that builds between Kato and Evamir. I thought the characters were so well written, well rounded. I love Prince Kato, my anxious king. I think he was just so sweet and lovable but very competent, and I just enjoyed reading about him so much. I think the relationship that he has with Evamir is great. The relationship he has with his sister Delilah is amazing. He has a lot of different like friends and servants also that are very interesting side characters, and I just love the vibe of this story. It felt very warm and inviting, and I really love the world that it's set in. It was exciting enough to, you know, keep me engaged, but it wasn't too high stakes. It didn't stress me out. It was just like a very calming but sweet and engaging romance, and I just loved it so much. I can't wait to reread it. I have lots of tabs in. I don't really know if you can tell, but I have lots of tabs in it because I just loved it. I love the love declaration in this. I just think that it's so amazing, and I just love the royal ex-bodyguard trope so much, and this just it was everything that I wanted it to be. It was serving, it was a full buffet. Like, I ate it up. I loved it. It was fantastic. So up next we have Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado, and it's a speculative short story collection, and I found it to be really interesting, very creepy. I had a lot of questions, but I just found it to be like a very interesting reading experience, and I absolutely loved a lot of the stories in here. Not every single one, but a lot of them I was just so completely blown away by. So the first short story in this is called The Husband Stitch, and that is one of the best short stories I have ever read in my entire life. The Husband Stitch was absolutely incredible, and it's a really interesting piece in my opinion about male entitlement, because it's about this woman who enters a very happy relationship with her husband, but her husband, though they have a good relationship and though they have a good connection and good chemistry, he's just always asking for more, more, more. There's just this one thing that she does not allow him into, that she does not allow him access to, and he just wants it so badly that he refuses to see her as a person with autonomy, with agency, and with the right to have things to herself and to keep secrets, or to have something that is hers and hers alone. And I think that is just such a incredibly well crafted short story with such a brilliant like emotional catharsis, and it was fantastic in so many different ways. So it's an incredible first short story. But the other short stories are also very, very good. My other favorites were Inventory and 8 Bites. There is one in here that I thought was really interesting, Especially Heinous, which is inspired by Law & Order Special Victims Unit. I didn't absolutely love that one. I think that short story is a little bit too long, and I think it sort of overstayed its welcome with me a little bit, but it was very interestingly crafted, and I love Carmen Maria Machado's writing and the risks, I guess, she takes when it comes to structure and structuring a story, and like crafting her vision. And I feel like there's something very cinematic about her writing style, which I always love in a writer. So I just absolutely adored this. I thought it was a really great collection, and it has me eagerly anticipating whatever Carmen puts out next. So yeah, this was awesome. It was so good. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I gave it 4 stars because there were a few stories in here, like I mentioned, that I didn't absolutely love. They were all good, but they weren't all like 5-star brilliant. So as a whole, I'm giving the collection 4 stars. Okay, then we have Long Shadow by Olivia Atwater. This is part of the Regency Fairy Tale series, and this is about a character named Abigail. Abigail's father is the Lord Sorcier, and in this world, the Lord Sorcier is basically like the magician to the king. So he handles all magical like crimes and inquiries in England, and she is his daughter slash apprentice, and Abigail basically wants to prove herself. So there is some magical murders happening, and she decides that she's going to solve them for herself, and in so doing she ends up meeting this girl named Mercy, and this is a romance between them while they are solving this mystery. I think that if you are someone who enjoys cozy fantasy trend that's going on right now, I think you would really like this Regency Fairy Tale series because it has a very cozy, very whimsical vibe. And this one, it does have like a kind of, you know, serious plot line. Like in this is the murder mystery. There's also a similar like magical illness thing going on in the first book in the series, so it's not like all completely, you know, sunshine and roses, but it is very whimsical in nature. And if you like fae, I think that the fae representation in this is very cool. I like the way that the fae interact with the human world and the way that the magic system works as a result of the fae kind of being known about and immersed in like human society and culture. Very interesting, very cool. I had a good time reading this. It wasn't my favorite in the series, so I gave it like a 3.5 star. Then we have I Want to Die But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. This is a memoir about a woman who's on a therapy journey after she gets diagnosed with dysmia, which is a like chronic depression, and so it is. So this book features transcripts of her therapy appointments with her psychiatrist. It talks about the various medications that she gets on and the side effects and her experience with finding the right cocktail for her, and some reflections on just her experiences in life in general, in relationships, and the things that she learns about herself through her therapy journey. I can't say that I absolutely loved this. I think that the author was really candid and very brave for sharing her story like this, and I think that, you know, that's always awesome. And so I did appreciate it on that level, but I wasn't a huge fan of the writing style. I think part of it may just be the translation, but I just wasn't a huge fan of the writing style, and I didn't necessarily love the transcripts that we got from her therapy sessions because they did feel a little bit lacking in context at times. So I feel like there were moments that were supposed to be, well, maybe not supposed to be, but moments that I think could have been like emotional or like have a lot of resonance with me as a reader. I feel like they lacked that because there was a lack of context. So I think that some of the organizational choices in this book didn't work for me fully, but it was still like an interesting read. And I think that if you're someone who's considering therapy, I think this might be like a good book to pick up just to get a sense of what therapy appointments can be like, and to kind of demystify therapy and make it seem less scary, because I definitely think that that is like maybe one of the author's main intentions in putting this book out there, to make therapy like less ominous, less mysterious, and to help people understand like how therapy can help them. So I appreciated it on that level, but it's not like my favorite read, I guess. But then we have Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk, and this is a sapphic historical fantasy. It's set during the 1940s. It's about this character named Helen, who is a private detective, and she's also a warlock who has sold her soul to the devil in exchange for the lives of her family. So she has been ostracized by the rest of magical society. She sustains herself by being a private investigator and doing this private investigatory work for this demon. The demon asks her to do some work at the beginning of this story, and the work is a little bit above her pay grade, but she's doing her best. So this features angels, demons, Faustian bargains, beautiful sapphic relationships. It was really interesting. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I listened to the audiobook as well, and I thought that that was really well narrated. So if you're looking for a good audiobook to check out, I would recommend this. And I also am going to recommend this for people who enjoyed A Dead Djinn in Cairo, because I did find a lot of similarities in the tone, the time period that is set in, the kind of character archetypes that it deals with. So I think that if you enjoyed that, you might really enjoy this one. But it was a good time, so I would recommend it. Alright, so then the last physical book that I read in January was The Daughter of Dr. Moreau, and I didn't like this. So this is a retelling of The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. This book is about a character named Carlotta, who is the daughter of Dr. Moreau, who creates these hybrids, and the hybrids are sort of a human-animal mix. He is creating them to basically make a kind of worker class for these landowners in Mexico, because there has been a uprising of the indigenous people in Mexico at this time, and they are no longer working. And so the landowners say, well, we need someone to work these fields, so instead of finding new workers, we're going to make some new workers. But Moreau's research has kind of hit a standstill, and so funding for his island of misfit toys is about to be taken away. And so we're following Carlotta as she and the rest of her family tries to find a way to get this money. And yeah, like some things happen. There's kind of a relationship brewing between Carlotta and her father's assistant Montgomery, as well as a relationship with a guy named Eduardo, who is the son of a rich man. This book just ended up being kind of boring for me. I feel like it touched on a lot of really interesting commentary, but it just wasn't as exciting as I feel like the premise could have been. And I also think that I was really excited by the concept of these hybrids, and I wanted to know more about the hybrids, but I feel like they weren't on page as much as one might expect. I wish that they were a heavier presence in the novel, and I just found it to be kind of boring. I found the main characters to be a bit dull, and overall it just wasn't the reading experience for me. It wasn't what I was hoping. So this is probably my least favorite by Sylvia Moreno Garcia thus far, but yeah, I give this like 2 stars, 2.5 stars. Like, it was all right, but it wasn't anything to write home about, and I definitely wouldn't recommend this over any of Sylvia's other books. So I'm going to recommend, based on some of the things in here that I think are not done super great, I'm going to recommend you a different book by Sylvia. I think if you want to read a story that has a sweet, almost cherubic, like naive protagonist in a relationship with like an older curmudgeonly type man, I would say read The Beautiful Ones instead of reading this. And I think if you enjoy kind of a bit of mystery that is full of a lot of interesting historical information and cultural information about certain periods in Mexico's history, I would say read Velvet Was the Night instead of reading this one. So yeah, this is my least favorite book by her. Don't read this one. Alright, so then I read a few other books on ebook. So I read Ashley Parker Doesn't Care. That's not the title. I read After Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake, and this is a sapphic romance about a girl named Astrid who is an interior designer and a girl named Jordan who is a carpenter, and they are working on this kind of HGTV house renovation project. Jordan's family is being renovated, and so they kind of clash over their opposing designs for what they think the inn should look like. There's some other stuff going on in this, but that's pretty much the main premise. And I have to say that I wasn't the biggest fan of this. I think that it was cool, it was cute, it was engaging, and like it was kind of fun. I like the friendship dynamic between Astrid and her friend group, and I do think that Astrid and Jordan kind of go on interesting emotional journeys in this book, but I wasn't a huge fan of their relationship. Like, I don't know if I 100% believe that they are like in love and that they are soulmates and all that stuff. I just feel like there was something lacking for me in their romantic chemistry. And I also felt like the house renovation plotline was very annoying because they're competing over like whose design is better, and they eventually get to this point where they decide to go with Jordan's design, but they're lying and say that it's Astrid's design, and it's this whole thing. And I just feel like the way that all of that plays out, it's just so fucking stupid. And then Astrid has this whole revelation about what her real passion in life is, and I just thought it was very, very fucking goofy, and I didn't enjoy it. So it was like enjoyable on one hand, and on another hand it was like kind of very unsatisfying, and it definitely did not hit the same spot that Delilah Green Doesn't Care hit for me. So I'm gonna give this like a 3-star. Like, it was fine, but it wasn't for me. I would definitely recommend listening to the audiobook though, because the audiobook narrator is very good at her job. So I think that she made it a more enjoyable reading experience than it would have been if I just was reading it straight off the page. But yeah, like, I read that, it was all right, somewhere in the middle of like meh and okay. What next? Then I read this novella series called the Kingstown series by Sean, and the first book in this is called His Majesty. His Majesty is about this girl named Majesty and this guy Josiah. This is a second chance romance between them. Basically, Majesty and Josiah were together for a long time, but they broke up because Majesty feels that Josiah is not really great at fulfilling her emotional needs. He really fulfills like her sexual needs, her financial needs, but he's not very emotionally available to her, and she just kind of grown tired of that. So she broke up with him prior to the events of the novella, and in this, Josiah is kind of trying to get her back and trying to fix what he messed up in the past, basically. I really like this a whole lot. I like the fact that Majesty has like high standards, you know, and I think that a lot of women are kind of taught to settle if there is something good about a man. It's like, oh, he has a good job, or oh, he's, you know, we have good sex with him, like that is enough to build a relationship on, to build a life on. And I like the fact that Majesty was like, no, like I want him to have everything that I want. I want to feel emotionally fulfilled, I want to feel taken care of, and you know, I want to have all these things, and I deserve to have all these things. And so until somebody comes along who can fulfill all those needs, I don't need you, and I'm leaving this situation. I like the way that they dealt with their issues, and I felt like it was a second chance romance that felt very well earned to me. Josiah does have a few red flags. He was a little bit possessive in the beginning of the novella, but the red flags did look a little bit green on the Kindle screen for me personally. I thought he was very sexy, but more importantly, I thought that Majesty was incredibly sexy. I just absolutely adored her, and she has this like solo love scene that absolutely changed my brain chemistry, and I'm so fucking gay. Like, it was the best solo self-pleasure scene that I have ever read in a book, and it was so sexy. And like, yes, their intimate scenes together were a good time, but her by herself in that scene, like, my life was changed, my brain was rewired. Like, it was incredible for me. It was so good. All right, so then the other books in this series, the second book is about a guy named Midnight and this girl named Tyler. They are kind of in the same friend group. They have lots of sexual tension, but they have acted on it even, but they just have not made that final leap into being emotionally like available to one another, or at least Tyler does not want to make herself emotionally available to Midnight, and he's just begging at her doorstep for a chance pretty much. So this is about them. Their book was really sexy. I wasn't that big of a fan of like their relationship, because I just feel like it never really fully made sense what was holding Tyler back from being open with him emotionally. And so I kind of felt like, you know, like, what's going on here? Like, I just didn't feel a real sense of what was going on with them romantically, but I feel like physically their chemistry was off the charts, and it was very sexy and a good time in that regard. And the last book in that series is called Yours, and Yours is about this character, what's his name? Bash. It's about Bash and Ryan, and Bash is this very sexy tattoo artist and Ryan is a hairdresser. One day Ryan goes into Bash's tattoo shop to get an impulsive tattoo. They meet, they have chemistry, they gain mutual crushes on one another, and they end up in the same book club. And so this is about them having mutual crushes and finally kind of acting on it. But it's just very, very sweet and very wholesome, but also very sexy. And Bash is down horrendously bad for her. Like, he is just so into her, and I really loved the vibe of just like the support and love and adoration that he gives Ryan is just so overwhelming and fantastic, and I really loved it. So it was really good. The whole novella series was very good in my opinion, and I can't wait to read more by Sean in the future. So I'd highly recommend it if you're looking for something short and sexy to read. Then I read this Omegaverse book called Too Tempting by Sarah Blue, and I didn't really like it that much. I honestly can't even remember the main characters' names, but this is like a polyamorous Omegaverse story. I have been for so long chasing the high of having read Lola and the Millionaires, and nothing has come close to the way that Lola and the Millionaires made me feel. So I've been trying all these different Omegaverse books, and this was one of them, and it
was supposed to give, but it did not give what needed to be gave.
It was just giving like 2013 Wattpad, and I just wasn't a huge fan. So for me, it was very much a flop. I'm giving it 2 stars. It did have a few sexy scenes in it. I will say that there is a pegging scene in it, and there's also some sapphic love scenes in this, which we always love to see, and I wish that I had been able to enjoy the book more because those scenes were very iconic and fun, but the writing was just really bad and very goofy, even goofier than like your typical Omegaverse type silliness. If you are in the market solely for, like, you know, a little scissoring scene or a men get pegged moment, then maybe you could check it out, but like, it wasn't that good. Alright baddies, so those are all of the books that I read in January. What was your favorite thing that you read in January? Do you have any recommendations for me? I'd love to hear them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you in my next video, so turn on post notifications, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and hopefully I'll see you in my next one. Bye you guys. Mwah.